Hello everyone, my name is Stanley St. Rose, and today we're going to be talking about Plato's Allegory of the Cave. Now, before I go into the summary analysis of this work, please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment so that the channel can continue to grow. Now, in Plato's Allegory of the Cave, we get introduced to a group of men who are chained up in the back of a cave. Pretty much their legs and feet, they're just chained up. They can't move. They can't move their heads, and they're basically staring at a wall. And behind them is this fire, and the fire is kind of like projecting the shadows of people and things going by on the street on the wall. So these men, for their entire lives, they're just watching people go by, but they don't see the people, they just see the shadows of these individuals. And so these men, they basically build a society for themselves in the cave where those who can tell the shadows apart proficiently, they're kind of praised, and those who can't are not. And they pretty much they live their entire lives like that from birth to death, and that's just their lives, and they believe in it. They believe that the shadows are real, and that's just the truth for them. Eventually, what happens is one of them escapes from the cave and finds his way out into the real world. We don't really focus on the logistics in this narrative of Plato's cave. We're just giving an account of what happens in the cave, and that these individuals, they're chained up, they're in a cave, they're watching shadows go by, they believe that the shadows are real, and that's their reality. This one individual, he escapes from the cave and he sees the real world for the first time. He's seeing trees, he's seeing water, he's seeing real people. He sees, animals, dogs, you name it. He's seeing life for the first time. In the cave, if you saw a dog, it wouldn't be a real dog. It would be a shadow of a dog. And maybe you heard that the dog bark because noises from the outside world would would echo inside of the cave. And so if you saw a shadow of a dog and you hear a bark, you would associate the shadow and the bark together, and you would call that a dog. And the things like when this individual he goes into the real world, he's at first he doesn't want to believe it because his world is shattered. What he believed in is shattered. He believed the shadows to be real. He believed in his world to be real and all that he knew to be real. But the thing is, when he's outside of the cave, he realizes that his whole world was fake, and that he had believed in something that was fake, and there's nothing that he could do about that. Now, after he pretty much gets educated, and he's enlightened, and he sees what's real and what's not, he decides to go back into the cave. And going back into the cave is difficult for him because now he's seen the real world. His eyes have adjusted to the real world, and going back into the cave, he's kind of like stumbling around because his vision is different, and he finds his old brethren, and he's trying to bring them to enlightenment. He's trying to educate them and tell them that what they believe in is wrong, and what they believe in is not real, and that they need to change their ways to see the world for what it is. But they're fighting against him. They even plot to kill him. They do not want to listen to what he has to say. He tries to break them from their chains, and they won't have it. They tell him that he's wrong, and that he's lost his way, and that he needs to figure out a way back because what he's saying is just it's not true. And he's in the wrong, even though that they're in the wrong. But the thing is, like, they're in the wrong because it's from our perspective. Since we live in the real world, I'm assuming that everybody watching this video or listening to this video is a real person on earth, and you've seen outside, you've seen trees and the water and the sun and all that good stuff. To us, shadows are shadows. They're not real people, they're not real things. But to the people in the cave, that's real to them. That's their reality, that's their existence, because that's all that they've known in life. And so we see them as ridiculous, as people who are ignorant. But the thing is, in the same way they see the individual that escaped and saw the real world, they see him as ignorant, as uneducated, because for them they've built an entire society in the cave. They have the individuals that can tell the shadows apart. They can differentiate from shadow to shadow. They're praised, right? But those who can't tell the shadows apart, they're not as highly praised as others. And so there's a whole society, there's a whole way of life and this belief system that exists in the cave. And this individual just becomes an outsider because now he's back in the cave and he's trying to help them, but he can't because they won't listen to him. In terms of analysis, in terms of deeper meaning of what Plato's allegory means, different people have interpreted in different ways for their own purposes to mean to help what they're trying to get across. But the most fundamental, the most basic understanding of what's going on in Plato's cave is that Plato, Socrates, Aristotle, these are men that devoted their lives to education, to learning, to philosophy. And so they put a lot of thought into how people should live and how men should live and how government should be run and how society should be run. So they put a lot of thought into it and they put a lot of thought into understanding reality in their lives. Now, they're kind of saying here ignorance and education and philosophy are always in this type of battle where even though that you've seen the light, even though that you're trying to bring it to others, you're always going to find yourself in these situations where belief becomes this thing that you can't overcome. Everybody knows the cliche that ignorance is bliss, but it goes to a whole nother level in Plato's cave because the people who are in the cave, they not, ignorance is not just bliss for them. Ignorance becomes truth. They believe in it, they trust in it, and they won't let it go because that's their reality, that's their existence. So in that way, ignorance pretty much beats out education and truth. And so these philosophers, they often find themselves stuck between these people such as those who are in the cave where they believe in something so adamantly that they will not bend. They will not change their minds for anybody. I mean, after all, Socrates was killed because of his beliefs, because his beliefs, went a different path from what was normal. And so Plato's allegory of the cave kind of presents us in different ways of looking at education and ignorance and our realities. I mean, another popular interpretation of what Plato's allegory means is just basically looking at reality. Is reality real? Because, okay, if you're looking from the point of view of the people in the cave, the shadows are real. The shadows exist. The shadows are not shadows, they're the real thing because they've existed in the cave for their entire lives. From birth to death, they've everything that they do is looking at the cave, looking at the shadows. In the same way, if you exist on planet Earth, if you're a human being and you exist on planet Earth, I mean, most human beings have existed on planet Earth for the course of time, and every human being is born on planet Earth, and 100% of deaths occurs on the planet Earth. Um, you know, we see our world, we see our reality to be the truth, to be real. But the thing is, like, we can never step out of our reality or step out of our existence to examine it. So, the same way that the people were stuck in the cave is the same way that we're stuck in our own reality because that's all we have. We can't turn our heads, we can't unchain ourselves because we exist on this planet, we exist in our reality. What we see, we assume it to be true and to be what's right. And so, in a way, you can't blame the people in the cave, even though that this individual escaped and brought back the truth. You know, it's hard to believe someone right off the bat, especially when you've existed in something for your entire life. So Plato's cave, brings about many different interpretation. I'm going to say that again because it's been interpreted so many different times and there's so many explanations of it. But fundamentally, basically, what it talks about is philosophy, education, kind of facing off against ignorance that literally becomes belief to the point where if you are the individuals in the cave, if you are the beings in the cave, you will not bend because your ignorance has have become your belief, and it's something that you will not give up. So that's my summary analysis of Plato's Cave. That's my interpretation. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe, and or comment, and I'll see you guys in the next video.